There is a singular moment in professional sports that is rarer than a perfect game, scarcer than a 90-yard touchdown, and more terrifying than defeat. It is the moment when 50,000 people, screaming in unison, suddenly stop. It is the moment when time seems to bend and physics gives way to art. It is the moment the ball arrives at the feet of Lionel Messi, pronounce Lionel Messi. For 20 years, the world stopped moving when this soft-spoken man from Rosario took the pitch. We are not just talking about statistics, though those are staggering enough to break any analytical model. We're talking about something more profound, something gravitational. When Messi is on the ball, the stadium holds its breath. Defenses collapse inward, drawn by an irresistible pull. Opponents abandon complex strategies just to become obstacles in his orbit. They scramble, they trip, they foul, but mostly they just watch. We all just watch. Greatness, in its truest form, creates its own ecosystem. It warps reality. This is not just a documentary about football. This is an exploration of that warp. How one man's singular talent warped the beautiful game, warped the expectations of a nation, and warped the very definition of what it means to be the greatest of all time. To understand the emotional pull Messi exerts on the world, we must first understand the literal, physical pull he exerted on the field. Think of the perfect footballer. Usually, you visualize power, speed, height, a machine. Now, think of Messi. 5'7", slender. He doesn't dominate with physical force. He survives despite the lack of it. His genius wasn't a mutation, it was an adaptation. Diagnosed as a child with a growth hormone deficiency, the world tried to shrink him. It was Barcelona, believing in magic over physicality, that paid for his treatment and brought the tiny magician to Europe. And it was there, on the grass of La Masia, pronounce La Masia, that he perfected a style of play grounded in gravity itself. He possessed the lowest center of gravity the game had ever seen. While defenders loomed over him, Messi used his proximity to the ground as a weapon. His balance was supernatural. His acceleration, explosive over 5 yards, allowed him to enter spaces that didn't exist milliseconds before. But the real magic was the relationship between his mind, his eyes, and the ball. There's a concept called scanning, the frequency with which a player looks away from the ball to assess their surroundings. Messi didn't just scan, he mapped. He was navigating a defense with the precision of a satellite, anticipating collision courses seconds before they happened. He didn't avoid tackles. He invited them, trusting his gravity to keep him upright as the universe collapsed around him. Think of Hetafe pronounce Hetafe in 2007. The 19-year-old kid. He took the ball in his own half. He didn't run. He flowed. He drew 4, 5, 6 defenders toward him like metal filings to a magnet. He orbited them, then left them in his wake. He was defying physics not by moving the fastest, but by moving right. He was showing us that the straight line is not always the fastest distance between 2 points, especially when the shortest point is through 3 massive defenders. But gravity is not just about moving objects. Gravity is also about weight. For most of his career, Messi carried a weight far heavier than any defender's tackle. He carried the expectations of Barcelona, the club that raised him, and the desperate, spiritual hope of Argentina, the nation he left too soon. For Argentina, football is not a game. It's the architecture of their national identity. They had the ultimate god, Diego Maradona, pronounce Diego Maradona, and they demanded that Messi be his reincarnation. They didn't just want him to win, they wanted him to suffer for them. They mistook his quiet humility for apathy. Because he didn't scream, they thought he didn't care. The final in Brazil, 2014. The shot that went wide. The photo of Messi staring at the World Cup trophy he couldn't touch. The picture spoke of a catastrophic failure, but it was really a portrait of immense weight. The entire country's gravity crushing him down. Then came the Copa Finals, the heartbreaking losses, the brief retirement. The narrative solidified. Messi was the greatest club player, but he could not master the international stage. He was brilliant but fragile. What the world failed to realize was that you cannot apply standard definitions of pressure to Messi. The very definition of his success required him to process more information, absorb more contact, and shoulder more national trauma than any athlete alive. We were asking him to move mountains while also asking him to be light. His quietness was not apathy, it was endurance. He wasn't breaking, he was absorbing the shock. He was preparing to shift the center of the universe itself. Greatness doesn't fight against the universe. It waits for the universe to align. And align it finally did. The late career of Lionel Messi saw the weight transform into wind at his back. The transformation started with the 2021 Copa America. The win on Brazilian soil. It was the release valve. The gravity didn't disappear, but the negative energy was finally purged. The monkey was off his back, and Messi smiled. A relaxed Messi was the single most dangerous entity in world football. Then came Qatar. 2022, the twilight. By now, Messi was walking. He walked more than almost any other player on the pitch. Pundits questioned his work rate, but they were missing the point. He was not walking because he was tired. He was walking to map the shifting gravity of the field. He was assessing every variable. Where is the space? Where's the weakness? Where will I be most effective in 5 minutes? When he finally found the space, his movement wasn't a run. It was a surgical correction. The penalty against Croatia. The pass to Molina against the Netherlands that defied logic. These weren't demonstrations of power. There were moments where his singular vision corrected the reality of the game. And the final. A match that itself warped time. Mbappe's hat-trick versus Messi's brace. The ultimate clash of the past and the future. When Argentina ultimately prevailed and Messi sank to his knees, it was not the victory of a man who conquered gravity. It was the victory of a man whose gravity was so powerful, the entire world had to align to give him the final star he deserved. He didn't just win a trophy. He validated 20 years of silent belief. Today, the magician plays in pink in a different league, under a different sun. The furious velocity has slowed, and the intense gaze has softened. We can look back now at those 2 decades and see Lionel Messi not as a collection of goals or assists or golden balls. We can see him as a singular natural phenomenon. He taught us that the lowest point on the ground can offer the highest view. He showed us that stillness is sometimes the greatest acceleration. And he proved that the greatest weight any human can carry can also be the force that lifts us all. We can argue statistics, we can debate tactics, but we cannot debate the feeling. We all felt it. When 50,000 voices stopped and the ball arrived at his feet. That was the silent, beautiful truth. That was the gravity of greatness.